Okay, so we started recording our videos after finishing our window frames, but originally, how did you start your frame?
So to start the frame, we first developed a bill of materials based off the drawings.
Okay.
Then we milled up materials to finish sizes, including the bead stop, the parting strip, and the casement, along with the actual frame itself. And then we went about laying out the sill.
Perfect. Okay, so moving forward, how did you cut your sill so it was able to interact with your jambs?
So we cut horns in the sill to have the side jambs sit flush. And then we cut the head jamb with rebates so that they sat flush with the side jambs.
Okay, and what did you do to your jambs as to be able to fit your parting strips?
So we cut a 1/2 inch deep groove into the side jambs and top jambs, so the parting strip just sat in there perfectly. So how did you go about milling up the sill?
Well, first when we started milling the sill, we started with our 1/4 inch rebate on the bottom of our sill. Cut it straight, and then later you can angle the curve to 10 degrees. Then went about just cutting the sides of our sill to 10 degrees, and then flipped down on its side. We came through with a plane to mill the bevel on the top where the sash is actually going to sit and make contact, and then finally cut just with a plow plane or something simple like that the drip cap on the bottom of the sill. Okay, how'd you get your parting strips to fit flush to your sill?
So basically, I'm gonna get my 10-degree angle and get my T-bevel and transfer that 10-degree angle right onto my T-bevel, keep it tight so it doesn't move, and I'm gonna put that right on my parting strip, my stop, and my casement, and then that's gonna keep a consistent angle where the casement can sit right on the horns.
Perfect. Okay, once you have all your individual parts ready to be put together, how do you put them together in a way that ensures they're square?
Okay, you have to measure your diagonals, and then you have to make sure to screw before gluing. So in case there's any mistakes, you can take it out and it won't be stuck in place.
Okay, so towards the end of your building your frame, what was the last step you did?
So the last step would be milling up the bead stop. We did this on the router table, and we saved it till the end of the project so we could access the sashes and everything inside the window. And once everything was ready to put together, including the sashes, we installed the bead stops. We mitered each corner so they at a 45 just had a nice flush bead stop.
Okay, so moving forward past the frame, how did you start on milling up and putting together your sashes?
So for milling up the 2 sashes, we needed 4 stiles and 4 rails, 2 of which were meeting rails. Then we profiled the stiles, 4 stiles, the 2 of the rails, and then we the bottom rail of the top sash and the top rail of the bottom sash were going to be meeting rails, so we do not profile those. So once you cut your rails and stiles, what did you do to make sure the glass fit?
Well, I went through on all my rails and stiles and cut a glazing rebate, just for be able to fit the glass in and have enough space for putty to be installed. And importantly, on your top meeting rail, you don't want to install or cut rather a full glazing rebate. You just want to put in a 3/16 groove, which the glass is essentially going to just fit right inside. Okay, once you have all the pieces milled up for your sash, what kind of joinery and joints did you use to actually connect them to each other?
So with the meeting rail, you want to use a bridle joint, and from the rails to the stiles, you want to use a through mortise and tenon.
Okay, so to get your meeting rails to actually interlock properly, how did you cut them?
So to lay them out, you do a series of 3 individual 8s, and then you split them in half. You first mark 1/8 to the middle, skip 1, and then mark another 1/8 from the top to bottom of the middle. Then you take it to the saw, and from the outside in, rip one of those 8s off, skip the middle, and then set the depth properly so that the next cut meets in the middle.
Perfect. And that's all still being cut at 10 degrees?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so when you were about to finish up your meeting rails, what were the last steps you did?
So basically, you want to cut your meeting rails so they're polar opposites so they fit into each other perfectly. And with the ends of the meeting rails, you want to cut them or chisel them until they're flat, completely flush, so your parting strip can fit perfectly into that groove when it's all assembled.
Okay, so cutting your bottom rail on your bottom sash, how did you get that to fit flush to the sill?
So basically, I took the exact same angle from my parting strip and all of that to and used it on the table saw and cut the exact 10-degree angle, and that's how it fits perfectly with the sill.
So Will, how'd you go about making the muttons for your sashes?
Well, fortunately, in the shop we had stock that was already milled to the proper proportions. And then the second thing, the immediate thing I did was run what would become my muttons on the shaper, both sides, to establish the profile and the rebate. Fortunately, in the bit, it was all one piece. And then from there, I had my long mutton stock, and I kept it long just to avoid having to do it again. And from there, I cut a couple practice joints just using the 45-degree jig to get better at coping before I'd install it into my window. And then from there, I used my sash, which was assembled at this point, as a guide, set my mutton stock on top of it, and marked out the final lengths, adjusting for the length of the tenon extending onto the interior of the rails and the stiles. And then from there, I went on to cut my cope joints and install the muttons at the center. And those fit together well, fortunately. And then from there, I moved on to cut on the other 45 to cope horizontally and install my muttons into my stiles into my bottom rail. And the meeting rail, fortunately, had a pretty simple joint. It was just a butt joint, essentially surrounding a tenon that went up into the meeting rail. Okay, so once your muntins were done, we moved forward onto installing the glass. To go about that, we needed to do some glass cutting. What can you tell me you learned about cutting glass?
What you want to really keep in mind when glass cutting is to really strive for one clean motion using the glass cutter rolled in oil or whatever lubricant you want to use.
So what other kind of tools did you use when you were cutting glass?
So I used just a specialized straight edge to keep things in line, and some specialized pliers.
Okay, once your glass was cut, how did you go about installing your putty?
So firstly, we primed the rebate with shellac, then set some putty as like a cushion on the rebate above the shellac. Then we set our glass in and packed putty all the way around the edges of that glass. And we took a flat trowel, and really packed it in there. And then took the angled trowel and had it firm against the wood and the glass, and cut a nice straight line to the corner on all four sides, and then just cleaned it up from there.
Okay, and how did you find installing the glazing hooks under the putty?
So using that stapler, it really set the hooks in there, and the glass was nice and firm, and it gave you a nice measurement from where to putty on the glass to the rebate.
You're checking the rest of the pockets before you... Okay, guys, then mark your tests.
So after you installed your glass, what were the final steps for you to finish your window?
So the final things I was looking at after finishing my sashes was, or initially I just gave them a good sand after putting the glass in to get any remaining putty or any mistakes that could be hidden by a good sand off the window or the sash specifically. And then from there I did a general sand on my the frame of my window just to get everything looking good. And one of the very last things I did was install my sashes into my frame, separated them by the parting strip, which I cut close to the beginning. And then the final thing I did was install my bead stop into the back to secure my sashes next to each other. And from there, my window was pretty much done.
Actually, I'm gonna start with the side.
This is the process we use to create a heritage show.
We hope you learned something and enjoyed.
Thank you so much for watching.